Hi, this is Lana Jones with BlueBunnyHollow.com, and I'm going to show you today how to embroider on a Blue Bunny Hollow doggy or kitty dining mat. These are my two newest versions, the kitty body and the kitty head. I have the new small doggy dining mat and the original large doggy dining mat. We're going to embroider on the large one today because if you know how to do the large one, you can do the small ones. The supplies we're going to need to start off with is a tearaway stabilizer. This is a Floriani medium weight tearaway stabilizer. This will be hooped. We'll also need some toppers. You can use either a wash-away topper by Floriani or any brand that you prefer. Or this is a Heat and Gone by Floriani. And there's several on the market. They all will work well. The Floriani, the Heat and Gone, has little bumps on the bottom that will go down on your project. The differences are, obviously, the wash-away will wash away, making it very easy to remove. It perforates easily and is very simple to pull out of the small areas. We'll talk about that more at the end of this video. The Heat-Away one is a little bit thicker and a little harder to remove out of the small areas, but I will show you again how to remove those from all the areas. It is your choice. The only advantage of the Heat-Away is that after you remove all the excess, the Heat-Away stays under the stitches forever. I've had no problems with either using a wash-away or Heat-Away. It's totally a preference on your part. To remove the topper from your mat, these products will work great. These are called seam fixes. There are several different ones here. A seam fix has a seam ripper. This one has a large one and a small one. The seam rippers can lift up little areas that you can't get with anything else. The rubber end is what is important. I'm going to show you how you're going to use that to lift up the areas that you can't get to very easily. This is the newest seam fix. This one actually has a stiletto at one end and a seam ripper at the other. This is a single seam fix. And then tweezers. Tweezers are great for removing some of the hard to reach places. You will need a ruler and a chalker to mark your mats. A small pair of scissors. I love these ones. They're double curved. They're by Kai's. They're number N5130 DC for double curve. And I like them because it's really easy to get into your embroideries and clip. We're going to be using these to clip the basting on the back of the design once we are all done. Tape is great for holding down the toppers when you are getting ready to embroider. You don't want a very aggressive tape because aggressive tape will remove the finish off the doggy dining mats. This is a great tape. It is Blue Bunny Hollow Superior Embroidery Tape, and it is great to put on your toppers to hold them down because it will not remove the finish of your mat. It comes in two sizes, 1 inch and 1/2 inch. Either will work just fine. A spray adhesive can be used to hold the mat to the stabilizer. Some people don't like to use temporary sprays adhesive, so if you're one of them, you can use double-sided tape to hold the mat to the stabilizer while it is being basted in place. You'll need your hoop for your embroidery machine. This one is for my 6-needle embroidery machine. I've already got the stabilizer in it because I am going to be using this for our demo today. And the thing about your hoops is you need to be careful with your mats. When I put this one in here, and I'll show you in just a few minutes how we mark it and get it ready, but you notice that on my 6-needle, you notice with this hoop, that with the 6-needle, these parts that are hanging over with my multi-needle, these will never touch the bed of the machine, any part of the machine, and it will work just great. But if you don't have a multi-needle and you're using a flatbed machine, if you have one of these, this is from a Luminaire, this, when you place your stabilizer and your mat on here, notice that this is big enough that the mat will never touch the bed of the machine. What happens when these mats touch the bed of the machine? The mats are made so they don't move on the surface. That way your doggy and kitty can't push it all over the place. But when it touches the bed of the machine, while this hoop is moving, if this touches the bed of the machine, it will stick to it. And so as you're embroidering and this is moving, once it gets stuck to the bed of the machine, it will pull itself right out. So these larger hoops are great. But if you don't have a machine that has one of these larger hoops, and you have a smaller hoop, these areas will actually touch the bed of the machine, and they could pull it right out. So you don't want that to happen. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to cut a piece of stabilizer that is a little bit bigger than the mat. Yes, I know you think that's wasting a lot of stabilizer, but it's much better to do that than to have it stick to the mat. So once you cut a large piece of stabilizer and you do your design, you have this large piece of stabilizer. Obviously, there's a lot left. You can use them in your smaller hoops, or if you plan on doing lots of these, take your original piece of stabilizer and use that with every single hooping. Because what you'll do then is this huge piece of stabilizer, you will cut a hole in it, put in your next piece of stabilizer, and use that as your base for your mats. You could also take and tape a piece of stabilizer, just scrap stabilizer to the edge, so that these don't touch the machine. So be creative, use whatever you have to create it, but just make sure that these mats do not touch the machine. Okay, so now we need to mark our mat. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mark it horizontally, and I'm going to go from corner to corner here. Okay, and now I need to mark it this way, vertically. So I find the easiest way to do this is to line this up on my markings of my mat so that I can find center, and it's going to be at about 1/8 here and about 7/8 on this side. So line that up just totally straight with that. So this is 9 inches apart, so at 4.5, that will be my center going this way. Now the issue comes when I go to put this in my hoop, because obviously this is larger than my hoop. I cannot see if this line matches up with my notch that's actually sitting about right here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this over to the back side, and I'm going to mark about 3 or 4 inches on my center going this way. So on my hoop, this notch back here and this notch back here doesn't really help me get center. It tells me where it is, but I like to take and mark my centers with a permanent pen so I know exactly where the centers are. Then I'm going to take my mat and I'm going to line up the notches here and here. And because I can't see this one, now I can flip this up and I can see if I am matched up with that. Okay, once I know I'm matched up with that, I can take my double-sided tape, put that on the edge of my stabilizer, and push my mat down on that so that I know that that side is center. Okay, I'm going to put another piece on this side. Now the embroidery is not going to get over this far, so I do not have to worry about the adhesive getting on my needle. Then I'm going to match up this side. Make sure that that is exactly where I need it to be, and push that down into the tape. So now I know I am centered going this way, I'm centered this way, and I'm ready to go. So now I will cut a piece of stabilizer. I'm going to use the wash away. That's going to cover my design area. But I'm going to use the Blue Bunny Hollow Superior Embroidery Tape to tape this down. And what I love about this tape is it tears perfectly straight. So I'm going to put a little piece here to hold this down while it is being basted. And then I'm going to put a little piece here just so I can keep my fingers away from the needle. Okay, so now I am ready to do the embroidery. So what I do like to do is tell the machine to go to the first stitch. That way I know my machine is ready to set up. I can hold these corners down. I don't want it to push these down on its own. I want to be able to help it a little bit so that I don't have the machine forcing the mat down. So that way I can use my fingers a little bit to help keep it in place. Okay, so now I'm going to start the machine. And since this is basting, I can use any color I want, so I'm going to choose to use the very first color of the design. This is one reason why a larger hoop does better than a smaller hoop. I actually have room to push the corners down. I don't want the machine pushing those corners down because it could break a needle. So I'll take the time, make my machine go slow, and push these corners down to help my embroidery. Okay, so the embroidery is now done, and I need to remove all of the topper. I'm going to start by removing the tape. Okay. And now I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to use the small scissors, the Kai scissors, and I'm just going to clip the bobbin thread every 1.5 inches or so. And I'm going to flip it over, and I'll use the scissors to just gently lift up the thread and then just pull that bobbin thread right on out of there, or excuse me, topper thread. Okay, and you'll have some of these bobbin threads pop through. You can use your seam fix to pull them right out of there. Okay, and now I'm going to remove the topper, and I'm going to rip away as much as I can. And this will work the same way if you're using the heat and gone. You'll just rip it all away. And you don't need to worry about the holes created by the basting stitches because the holes will disappear. Now for the stubborn areas where you just can't grab them, like inside the letters or in the smaller areas of the design, whatever design you happen to be doing, you can use the seam fix for that. And as you can see, I've got areas here that I won't be able to get to easily. So for instance, like this O, I'm just going to flick the seam fix, and that just pops that hole right out of there. In areas like this, I'm going to flip that up along the edges here where I can't quite get to them. Use my seam fix to help me lift it up. Now I have a few small areas where I can't use the seam fix. I'm just going to take my tweezers and just gently put it underneath here and lift those areas out. Just like that. And if you're planning on washing this, you don't have to worry about those small areas. The washing machine will take care of that. All the topper has now been removed. We can take it out of the hoop. And tear away the backing. Now you can tear away as much of this as you want. If you want to get down into the little tiny areas, knock yourself out. I don't remove absolutely everything. I just remove the big pieces that I can get to easily. I don't worry about things in between the letters. I sell my mats, and I have never had anybody complain that there's too much stabilizer left behind, because as these get washed, this stabilizer will just start to break up on its own and go away. My double-sided tape left over from taping it to the stabilizer. Set those pieces aside. And the only thing I have to do now is just remove the white marks. Just rub those off. And my mat is ready to give as a gift or to use for my favorite pet. Thanks so much for watching. Next is a gallery of a number of things that I have done with the mat. You'll see most of them are done on the larger mats. That's because that's what I started with. I have a few samples on the smaller mats, but enjoy the gallery.